Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Inside Your Screen podcast bite size. This is the Snowpiercer episode 4 review, spoiler review for Without Their Maker. Sorry. The plot thickens. I'm with my co-host Brennan Horgan. How are you doing, sir? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Tony, how are you?
Not too bad at all. So let's get straight into it. Nikki Janae is dead. She has a slit throat and there's arterial blood all over the place. And Eric, the bodyguard, is doing a runner. What did you think of this episode, Brendan?
It was pretty full on, this episode, in a good way.
Yeah.
An awful lot happened. We got an awful lot of questions answered, but there was more questions asked towards the end now, because it's really interesting to see where it goes from after this episode. It was pretty action packed.
Well, let's wrap up the main story, the kind of focal point that I thought we'd be spending a lot more time on. I mean, we're about halfway through the series now, but the kind of murder mystery seems to have been wrapped up. I was a bit surprised. Or has it? We don't know. Well, I think it has. There might be some mitigating circumstances that we'll get into a bit, but let's dissect that a little bit first. So it appears that Eric, the bodyguard of LJ, and the kind of elite class, first class family, got stuck in between. They call them borders, don't they? They kind of shut down the kind of the classes from third to second to first class. So he's inevitably trapped, and Layton knows that the murderer is in third class. So really, it's kind of like a chase again. It's a race against time to find him, and he knows his days are numbered. So he kind of goes into third class, gets into a hostage situation, and inevitably gets hacked up by the axes of the security guard force. What do you think about that whole kind of segment, Brendan?
I enjoyed it. I was very surprised with the brutality of his demise, where they hacked him, and they really hacked him to pieces. They didn't mess around there. They
chop.
Yeah, there was about 6 or 7 of them just literally slicing him to pieces. It was well done. It didn't consume the whole episode, and it was broke. Obviously, those scenes were kind of broken out. I'm intrigued now because the fact that he's dead, the character, the kind of bodyguard character, would suggest that possibly certain things have been hidden as well. What did he know, and what did he know about who? He obviously had this carriage in third class, which what was that, a storage container?
It just seemed like a kind of storage container where people go to maybe get high, like a kind of, like you get like the kind of like squats where people just go to kind of like shoot up and stuff. But my main question is, so Jinju is she's going out, and I don't know if it was kind of revealed why she's meeting a guy. Is she like picking up some like meat or something from a container? Like there's a guy in there. Do we really know?
No,
if I'm honest, what happens there? Or
I kind of got the feeling that he was almost like a clothes designer. There was material. I don't know.
It was just like she was just going about her business.
Just shopping probably for materials or something like that. That was the impression I got. Almost like he was a kind of like a I don't know what there must be a term for it, but like a material,
like a tailor sort of thing.
That type of thing. That was the impression I got.
Okay, so maybe it was just, maybe it was just the kind of the fact that he just came across this container, but it seemed like he was going there for a reason.
Well, he had his own container, remember? So remember the first place where he locked himself in?
He did, but then Till and Oz found him, and he kind of like made a mad dash for it.
Yeah.
But then he kind of ended up with taking Jinju hostage. One thing I didn't understand, so he brings her, they're going through, they're having a bit of a chase sequence, and he brings her down into the kind of, the kind of where all the maintenance happens as such down in the Snowpiercer train. And there's a moment where he looks up at like this kind of fuse box and he shoots it. And I kind of thought that there was something going on there. Like, why would you just randomly shoot a junction box before he gets kind of taken down by the security force? Do you think that had any? That just seemed a bit weird to me. Was he shooting that junction box for a reason? Do you think he was trying to sort of uncouple the train, or trying to hurt the train in some respect? Or do you think it was just a kind of case of like he had one bullet left? Instead of shooting himself, he was just going to shoot the train.
No, no, it's a good question, and maybe that we might see some repercussions later. We kind of mentioned, I think, in either the last pod or the pod before,
like mechanical sort of issues.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a lot of that, where it's kind of that's exactly it. There's an issue with the train, so that now that there's a mechanical issue, that's going to have an effect on the rest of the train. Because obviously they've got to conserve energy and things like that. The fact that he put a hole in the carriage obviously has some, like, I was actually, do you know what I was expecting? Because he obviously shoots it and then you kind of get the the shoot of cold air coming through. What I thought was going to be part of a fight scene was, I thought that was going to almost be like a weapon, like as the guards came to attack him, he was going to kind of hold them in front of it to freeze them type
sort
thing.
Of like a liquid nitrogen T1000 style type
and
thing.
I was also expecting during that scene of them hacking him, as the kind of guards again got in the way of that kind of ray of air, or whatever you want to call it, burst of air coming through, that they were going to kind of get frozen. So yeah, it's a good question. I've got a feeling that it's going to be something. It is going to be like, again, maybe an electrical junction box, and now that's going to affect the train and how the train runs going forward.
Well, I hope so, because otherwise it'll just turn out to be a bit of a plot point.
Yeah, otherwise
it doesn't go anywhere if that happened.
Absolutely. If nothing comes of that, then that's really random.
Okay, so through his investigative work, Layton and Melanie kind of find out that it is Eric, the kind of bodyguard of the first class family. So they go to the first class compartment, even bit of a tongue twister there.
We actually start off with that, so that's how they work out. Yeah, that it's the security guy, Eric.
I was a little bit dubious as to if Nikki was killed, like how would the investigation go? But I was obviously very far behind in the kind of like detective school when they were handing out brains, because they got there very quickly and very easily as well in that respect. So once again, we kind of have this. I think the kind of whole point of this episode was to kind of showcase the differences between the classes, if you will. So Layton kind of is, as he's walking up the corridor, he's seen all these kind of like paintings. He's got like the kind of Van Gogh sunflowers, Vermeer's girl, the pearl earring, and he kind of like he's putting him on the kind of back tell, like he's not used to seeing all these grand.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that was a bit over the top.
Do you think?
Yeah, just purely based on the concept of the whole world is ending.
Exactly. Do you not think if the whole world was ending, people would try to sort of
take it's convenient. It's convenient that all of
the old world.
It's convenient that all of them ended up on the train.
1001 carriages. You've got to have some art in there. You've got to keep the history of our culture alive. So I understand what you're saying, like a bit over the top, but also at the same time, people would be bringing, pieces of art and whatnot. We might have a carriage like with the David just there as a statue, just kind of like
100%. I think that's it. I think they're only just scratched the surface there of what else we're going to see in first class.
But credit to Layton. He does his detective work, and he basically finds out that Eric was just the dog to LJ's. She basically becomes apparent that before boarding the train, LJ, there was a few guys that obviously tried to, rape her, I guess, and Eric came to her defense. But she's got a bit of a narcissistic, maybe even the psychopath going on there.
Just a bit.
Yeah. She kind of tries to play with Layton in the respect of any kind of 1950s style crime noir. Like she kind of puts on a record and she's dancing around like a bit of a nympho, but then on the other side she's kind of talking very coldly about the way that she I like the kind of subtext going on between the two in those scenes where he basically figures it out, and she's like, well, hey, if you want stuff for the tail, and he's like, we could do with some guns, and she's like, yeah, you're on my page now, right? But no, it doesn't happen that way. He calls her out when the time comes for it. Um,
She was very forthcoming with the information, don't you think?
well, I don't think she really had any choice. He kind of figured it out.
But had he? Did he have any evidence? Like,
Pretty much. I don't think on Snowpiercer there's a thing as like a judge, jury, executioner type. I think it's more of a kind of, My question about it really is, what was her beef with Nikki and with Sam in the first place? Like that's where I think, has this been solved? Has the mystery been
no,
solved?
no, that's where I don't think it's been solved because they make a point of showing her in her cell, right? And it looks like quite a comfy cell as well, by the way. I did notice that. I noticed that the bed was really well made up on the. So put it this way, the cell she's in looks nicer than the tail, as an example. So she's in first class prison. Do you know what I mean? I definitely think there's more going on a lot more going on with her.
I think the parents have a lot more to do with the whole, the people that died, Nikki and Sam, than than they're letting on at the moment. But maybe that's something that will come back into it. I think really the kind of murder mystery, there was a kind of point. Did you ever watch Twin Peaks, Brendan?
I did the odd episode, yeah. I
Okay.
wasn't massive. That was a little bit too far out for me. Twin Peaks.
The whole kind of thing, the TV show was Who Killed Laura Palmer. About halfway into the series, you found out who killed Laura Palmer, and that's when ratings sort of dropped. So in this kind of respect, what they've done is they've kind of created this kind of bubbling backstory with the whole revolution thing, and I think that's where that's going to come into now, because we had this kind of almost like heist type segment as well, with what's her name, Josie,
yeah.
infiltrating the train, going into the sanitation. She's got the kind of the access chip to get from
She got into third class, yeah.
Third class, where she can start making the kind of plans and whatnot. And she meets up with someone, I can't remember, I don't know who her name is, but
yeah, I've been looking for her name and I can't find it.
I think we'll find out in later episodes, but she's starting to make the revolution happen in that respect. She gets back just in time before, the guards know that she was on a kind of like lunch break. So she used that kind of half hour or 15 minutes to make her presence known in the third class cart.
Yeah, it also answered our question that we had about how those microchips work. So it's just a microchip to open the specific doors in the specific classes of the train.
Yeah. So we find out that Layton knows that Mr. Wilford even is indeed Melanie.
Again, I am being a little bit picky, but that like a bit in the way that I thought it was a bit silly how quickly LJ spilled the beans on what she'd been doing, without really Layton giving anything away. That was quite definitive that he was 100% sure that she was behind it. And I also think the same way of the way that twist there where Melanie kind of says, "You've worked it out, haven't you, Layton?" And it's kind of like, yeah, I have. And I thought, really?
Never drink Saki with Jennifer Connelly. That's all I'm going to say. There's a great moment though, I got to say, when they take the shots and he lets her drink first in that kind of like little way of like, I don't trust you, and he was right not to. But so it kind of makes me think, at what point did she poison drug the drink or whatever? But again, I did like that little nod to.
I was quite tight-eyed to that, if I'm honest. I don't know why I noticed it, but the minute that scene happened, I was like, right, you've got two glasses, okay, in these little kind of square containers, but we never saw who poured them.
Yeah, that was the whole point, really, wasn't it? That's why he was watching her first to see her.
And my reaction was kind of like, "Where's the barman here?" Because the last time we saw that
was with Jinju.
Jinju, and Jinju was almost like acting like. We also find out that Jinju is a scientist.
Yeah, like you kind of called it, like at the start of the episode. She's doing the monologue. It's her monologue this time. So she's in second class now. So yeah, it could be the fact that I think maybe in the next episode, in episode 5, we may hear Jennifer Connelly sort of speaking. Maybe we'll hear one of the engineers. I don't know. I like the fact though, as you said, like each episode starts with another character and from a different kind of class as well. So maybe Jinju prepared the shots for them. So maybe Jinju knows more than we originally have been led to believe.
And also, mate, if I'm honest, I wasn't actually saying that Jinju made the shots for them. It
makes sense.
But it does make sense now.
From a kind of viewer perspective,
100% it makes sense. It also coincides with the opening scene where they're showing her making sushi. And it's almost like that concept of, like, what's that infamous fish that has poison in it? Fugu. So, maybe that's what she's done. She's kind of poisoned Layton with some kind of fugu.
Possibly, yeah. Well, it seemed like, he was put in a drawer then. So, this was the kind of the twist at the end then. Layton is put in a kind of Demolition Man freezer sleepy time drawer. And, who's going to let him out? Because, who knows he's in there? We know that Josie has a little note at the end saying that Layton is missing. But apart from Dr. Clipton and apart from Melanie, they're the only two that know he's been put in a drawer. So it's going to be interesting. I think maybe the next episode we won't see Layton at all. Or if we do, it'll be in like some kind of weird upside down in his mind type thing. Or maybe even like a flashback sequence to before all of this happened, before the environmental disaster, and we may see a few lives before the train. Who knows? But
I still think that there's something like why did Melanie put Layton under? Why?
Because he knew.
Because he knows.
And if he goes back to the only thing he said was like, I want to go back to the tell, and she was like, I can't allow that. Because imagine if he turned around and told anyone
that there is no Mr. Wilford,
and that would shut her whole system. Like that's her whole point. Like that's her whole motivation at this moment is to keep the control and order. And if someone let's be honest, Layton he's been a bit hot-headed sometimes. And if he wants to start a revolution, then what's the best way to say that Wilfred doesn't exist or is not alive? And that could collapse everything. So in a kind of motivational kind of respect from Melanie's character, completely I agree that she should have taken him down. Definitely, like that's the only way she can maintain control. And then further in goes on to believe that what you were saying before about perhaps Wilfred himself, maybe he was put under because maybe he was getting a bit too grandiose dreams. Like maybe Melanie, we're going to find out, is a bit of a dictator in that kind of respect, and she's all about chaos. She's like Thanos, I think. She's all about balance. And if balance gets kind of skewed, then she starts to lose it a little bit, sort of thing. So who knows?
Yeah, intriguing. She's definitely got a lot more. She's hiding.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more that we find out about Melanie as well. And I'm curious as well. It's very rare to kind of find a TV show where you're actually very curious about the person's backstory. Now, you could sort of argue that, like, maybe we haven't, as a viewer, there hasn't been given enough of that character. We know she's determined. We know she's strategic. We know that she's manipulative. But we also know that at the end of the day, her main concern is like a captain of a plane. Her main concern is the passengers. Like that's the kind of.
Is it?
I think so.
They're kind of hinting that there's some kind of really dark underbelly to all this that we like.
Perhaps there is something going on that we haven't been privy to at the moment. But at the same time,
I hope it's not as simple as. That's it. It's balance. It's she is in charge of it, but she needs to give off this perception that.
To be honest, I think so far. We're like episode 4.
The balance,
I'd be happy with that. I think her character, the way that her character's been portrayed, it does show that she's willing to do anything to keep that balance. And I think with something as fragile as having 1,001 carriages filled with so many egos, filled with so many different people, personas and whatnot, because you're always going to get someone like, there's the military guy that called her out in the last episode when she was giving Wilfred's speech, and he turned around and went, Churchill, huh? and she was like, oh, she obviously got, there was that kind of thing of like, oh shit, he realizes that this is from a Churchill speech. Moments like that kind of make me think she's fucked up, and she like you see it as well when she's been caught out in certain things, and she's trying to maintain that balance of trying to be the kind of voice of Wilford, knowing that, and that's exactly what Layton says in this. Like, what is it he says about myth? Trying to keep, like, just as he's been drugged, just as he takes the sip of Saki, he goes, something about myths, keeping the myth alive or something like that. And there is something powerful in that. So she is trying at the end of the day, I think, to keep people alive, and she knows through order, because if chaos ensued, if the tail end section, if it became a revolution, then there is a kind of class system at work here, and she's trying to sort of play it down, but also at the same time trying to maintain balance. And if that's what the thing is, if that's what the end of the day, that's what her character trait is, I'd be happy for it.
But what would conflict with that is the putting people on ice, the freezing them. Like the perfect example, like you said, Layton knows. Why doesn't she just throw Layton off the train? Why is she keeping Layton on ice? Why? Layton's a liability. Kill him, throw him off the train. Just open a door, throw him out, close the door.
Maybe she has plans for him, because she does say to Clifton, she does say, like, I want him undamaged.
Yeah,
so
which
perhaps...
would suggest, good shout there, because I did pick up on that as well. That may suggest as well what you kind of alluded to in the last episode, which was maybe there is some dodgy shit going on with the bodies.
Yeah.
How are they being damaged? Is this going to be some sick kind of sex ring, for the first class? Like, is that, because I also get a feeling, just with the fact that we already know that there's going to be 2 series of this show.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that we're not seeing all of First Class as an example. Let's be blunt. We've only really focused on 1 family, or 3 families in First Class.
Yeah.
You've got the kind of LJ and the Folger families. I forget her name. You've got the Oriental guy.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't seem like he has a family. It seems like he's up there on your own. And you have the almost Indian-looking guy who, again, you haven't seen. They're the only people in First Class we've actually been shown.
Yeah.
So I'm going to guess, just with it being 2 series, you need lots of characters that we haven't seen all of First Class, if you know what I mean. They're just...
Well, I mean, I think this is alluding to now Revolution. I think this is where the series is going forward now. I think what with Josie infiltrating the kind of other decks, and now that Layton's kind of out of play for the moment, I think we're going to be focusing, and now that the mystery of the murder has been solved, and I use inverted air quotes when I say that, I think we're going to be focusing more on the kind of classes and the kind of the revolution that's about to happen. How that's going to happen, I'm not entirely sure. And where can we go from here? What is episode 5 going to sort of say? I'm not too sure. I'll be interested. I think we might focus on some of the the sort of secondary characters maybe in the next episode, and sort of know about their kind of quirks and their characteristics a little bit more, perhaps.
Yeah, because you're really spot on there, and the way you kind of summarised it at the start is right. It's almost like you said. The murder investigation is kind of finished with thinking. Okay, you've now got Layton, who has really been the focus so far.
He's been our main protagonist, yeah.
On ice.
Yeah.
So where do you go? I agree. I think the revolution is 100%. On the table, and it's coming, but I don't see it coming anytime soon. I think the build to revolution will be slow. I can see almost like the first wave of revolution being the final episode. Like that's, I think we're a long way off yet than being prepared to revolt. We're definitely getting a revolt in this season. And it could be a cliffhanger how they end it. We know there's another season, so the revolution can't be successful. Do you know this is one of those ones where I kind of hate us as viewers knowing in advance that we've got another season coming, because you kind of know, like instantly, you're like, just purely based on the main plot of this show, the revolution will not be successful if it happens in this series, because then what happens in series 2?
Yeah. The thing
Do you
is, like,
know?
when you lose your kind of like your main theme. I mean, it's been something that's been running throughout the whole 4 episodes, the whole class divide. If you lose that, you're gonna have to replace it with something else. The only thing I could see them replacing it with is that kind of Watchmen sort of thing, where there's like an external force or something greater that makes the people all work together. What that may be, the only thing I can think of is that the train, stops. That's the only thing that can happen, is that somehow the train is impacted in a way that has to make everyone work together as a whole, as a unit sort of thing, rather than anything else. But that's the only thing I can think of.
Also, don't be surprised if
Aliens.
well, I wasn't going to go quite as far as aliens, but don't be surprised if quite early in the next episode they don't stumble across another mutilated body, and then oh,
Yeah,
it
I
can't
definitely
have been
feel.
Eric. Oh, we're going to have to get Layton out of the ice
Yeah,
box.
that was my next kind of where I was going to go with next. Is like there'll be some point where Melanie is kind of confronted, I believe, or she's going to be basically forced into a corner where she has to get Leighton out of hypersleep, demolition man, sleepy time.
Yeah.
And her hand will be forced. Whether that's the fact of.
It won't be forced because it's a very easy one to fix.
Mm.
Like
So
I think
is
that
this like a shock tactic then, just like putting him under as like, oh no.
I think so. I don't think like as I just can't see the way it's been, and the fact that the way the show is being marketed as well. The main poster is Melanie and Layton.
Yeah.
The whole series and the marketing has been them two. They're the two main characters.
But I will be honest, this is what
So
I'm
I can't
really
see if they've
enjoying about
gone for
Snowpiercer, though, is that the secondary characters are, just as
interesting.
important and
Yeah,
interesting as like the main characters.
totally.
Like definitely Till, like I've been really loving her
Till, yeah.
character.
Till is fantastic. Ruth is the host. Is
Yeah.
just brilliant. It was what's the I don't know the actress name who plays her, but she is so good. She's pulling this off as well. The one who plays Josie's really good. The guy what's the name of the other brakeman? The guy who was dealing Chronol. Oz, that's it. So Brakeman Oz.
Yeah.
He's quite a funny character as well. I just love the fact. I think it's more us being Londoners as well, but you've got the London accent in the middle of all the American and kind of.
Yeah, there was a point when he was chasing after Eric, who's like, "Oi, come here!" Yeah,
So kind of, he's quite a humorous character. So I'm enjoying him so far.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, I'm impressed so far. I thought that. For me, I was very dubious when I first started watching it, because after watching the film and then thinking, how are you going to make this into like a kind of 10? I can't remember if it's 8 parts or 10 parts, but
I think it's 10.
I think it's 10 parts. Yeah, I was like, how are you going to make this into a 10-part TV show and kind of keep my interest? But so far, it has. I
think as well. I totally agree. I think as well, and I'm going to go a little prediction-y before we kind of
go on. Send us your predictions, Brent.
Right. I think Snowpiercer is going to be almost like a kind of longer equivalent of Columbo, right? So I think we're going to start our next episode, and it's no longer necessarily the murder investigation that we've been watching, but we're going to be introduced. Like we're going to have another monologue at the start from a character maybe in second class. No. The next monologue we see will be from a new character in first class who we haven't been introduced to yet. Okay?
You're going to be introducing new characters now, you think?
Because or possibly one of the other first class characters, maybe the Indian guy or the Oriental guy. Maybe we'll get a monologue from one of them. But we've had episode 1, we had a monologue from the tail. Episode 2, we had a monologue from Actually, no, we've had 2 monologues in a row from second class, unless the Doctor is in third class. He's definitely not first class anyway. We're going to get a monologue from her new or existing character in first class. And what that monologue is going to do, it's going to introduce us to another seedy world within the train that we haven't seen so far. It may not be drugs.
Okay.
It might be prostitution. It might be, I don't know, child abuse. It might be, but I see us being introduced to another really dark, sadistic kind of thing, whatever it may be, and that will be the new form of investigation. So I don't know, maybe someone will die of asphyxiation. I don't know. Whatever the darkness is, I can see there being a dead body out of it. Hence, we've now got to get Layton out. And now Layton's investigating a whole new theme on the train. It's no longer, you know, this serial killer who chops people up. Now we've got, I don't know, whatever sickness they can come up with. But that's what it's going to be.
Oh, I love these conspiracy theories, Brendan. I love them. I love them.
Yeah.
Just like Columbo. Just one more thing. Yeah, well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. But I'm very intrigued for episode 5 and where this is going to take us. You can follow us on Inside Your Screen. If you are a member of Twitter, follow us on Twitter at Inside Your Screen with the UR for your. We're also on SoundCloud and we're also on iTunes. Tune in whenever you like. If you're enjoying this, then join in the debate. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think will be happening in Snowpiercer in the upcoming episodes. And we look forward to hearing from you. So we're going to say goodbye from there. We're going to sign off. Like Columbo, we're going to get in our car and we're going to poodle along until the next case. So, yeah, good night, all.
Inside your